What if I told you some of the stress draining your peace right now isn't coming from life? It's coming from what you keep reacting to. An opinion, a text, a disrespect, a comment, a delay. You had control of your mind to something outside of you. That's not power. That's surrender. And most people don't even realize their frustration isn't coming from what happened. It's coming from engaging with things they should have ignored. Today, I want to show you why reacting is often a loss of control and how silence can become one of the strongest forms of power you have.
The Mindset Manual with Myron Williams.
Welcome to the Mindset Manual, the place we talk about the hard truths that most people avoid, but the truths that can actually change your life. I'm Myron, entrepreneur, father, and student of life. And today we're talking about a skill that will elevate your mindset, your business, and your peace instantly. Learning when to say nothing. But right now, I need you to say something by hitting that like and subscribe button. Now let's get into it. Reaction is a loss of control. Every time you react emotionally, you're giving someone else control over your behavior. Think about it. Somebody sends a message, you instantly respond. Somebody disrespects you, you feel the need to prove something. Somebody doubts you, you rush to explain. That's not power, that's emotional dependency. Because now your mood, your actions, your energy are being dictated by something external. As a man, as a father, as an entrepreneur, you cannot afford that. Not everything deserves a response. Here's a hard truth. Everything does not deserve your attention. But we live in a world that conditions you to respond to everything. Notifications, comments, opinions, negativity. And if you're not careful, you'll spend your entire day reacting instead of building. Let me say that again. Reacting instead of building. Every time you engage with something meaningless, you're stealing time from something meaningful. And most people don't realize ignoring is not a weakness. Ignoring is discipline. The power of silence. Silence is one of the most powerful tools you have because silence does a few things. It protects your peace. It preserves your energy. And it forces other people to sit with their own behavior. See, when you don't respond, you don't give fuel to the situation. You don't escalate it. You don't validate it. You let it die. And a lot of things in your life don't need to be solved. They need to be starved. I'll tell you about some things that happened in my life. A story about how I was beefing with some of my friends, and instead of staying quiet, I fed into some of those emotions. I said things that I probably shouldn't have said when I should have just kept it to myself. But because I'm working on my emotional intelligence and I'm building it, things happen. People know your triggers, especially people that's known you a long time. They know how to say things to trigger you to get a response from you. Typically, I'm the calmest, coolest person in the room. It's hard to get a rise out of me. I've had relationships with women that struggled being with me because it was hard to get any type of toxicity or anger out of me. Yeah, I may be angered in some kind of way of something they're said, but I wouldn't allow them to know that. I will control my power, and that's my emotional intelligence. I've been very good at controlling my emotional outbursts and my reactions to people. But somebody that you care about, somebody that's known you for a long time, somebody that's set on getting a reaction out of you, they know how to hit your triggers, and it's your responsibility to control those triggers. You're not perfect. I'm not perfect. We all have our own feelings. So there's going to be those moments where somebody triggers you and you're going to react. Don't be hard on yourself for doing that. I've done it. I've reacted when I knew I shouldn't have. And then I'll beat myself up for days and weeks later saying I shouldn't have even reacted. I shouldn't have fed into it. It's just about the emotional intelligence. That's why we're here on this podcast, trying to get stronger and stronger emotionally so we can handle any situation when it comes up like that. But, I was beefing with some of my friends over something really small, but as men, it became this long drawn out thing, tit for tat, on text messages, through friends or through group chats and things like that. In reality, the whole time, even though it took us 3 years to reconcile, I should have just stayed silent. I shouldn't have said anything. Every time some negativity came my way, I shouldn't have said anything. I should have just sat back. And I think that beef would have ended a lot sooner if nobody had have said anything negative toward the other person. We could have eventually crossed paths and talked it out like we eventually did and resolved that, because I reacted, they reacted, I reacted to that, they reacted to that. We just kept going back and forth with reacting to each other. And because, like I said, at that point, once you say something, once somebody says something to you and you say anything back, now you're emotionally invested in that drama. You've given some power away and you got to try to get it back. That's just nature. That's just how you work. You're going to try to pull that power back from them saying something to you and making you say something back to them. You're going to try to rush and get it back. Don't say anything. That's the easiest way to avoid being drained or giving away your power. Just don't say anything. Let that person sit in whatever they said to you. Why aren't they saying anything? Why aren't they saying anything back? I said this. I know that's a weak spot for them. You're stronger than that, and let them figure it out. Eventually, they'll come back around and realize they messed up, and now they'll be sorry and want to talk to you about it. So it's just about practicing this stuff, and this is what this podcast is about. That's why I ask you guys to tune in every week. I'm just talking about different things, life experiences. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a therapist. I'm a real person, a father, entrepreneur, and a student of life, because I've done so many things. I've been in so many different businesses and so many different situations. Right now, I'm doing this podcast. I'm 50 years old. So I've experienced a lot of different things, and I want people to watch this and learn from it, especially younger people, 25, 30. Don't make some of the mistakes that I made, and avoid some of these setbacks by being emotional intelligence and not making some of these mistakes. And you can better your life and better your business, because now you have a focus and somebody like me that can tell you real life stories. I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'm just trying to help you. And so you can help the next person, and so on and so on. It's called paying it forward. You pay it forward to the next person. I pay it forward to the next person. And it just keeps going on. The circle of karma is blessings keep coming your way. And that's what it's all about. And that's why I'm here. So let's continue on with the lesson, and we'll pick up there. Why people struggle to ignore things. Let's be real. Ignoring is hard because your ego wants to respond. Your pride wants to defend. Your emotions wants to be heard. But discipline says, this doesn't deserve my energy. And that's the difference between people who grow and people who stay stuck. One reacts to everything. The other chooses carefully what deserves attention, because the attention is currency, and either you're investing it or you're wasting it. When to ignore versus when to act. Now, let's be clear. This isn't about being passive. This is about being intentional. There are moments when you should respond, when something aligns with your purpose, when something requires leadership, when something moves life forward. But everything else, distractions, negativity, petty conversations, people projecting their insecurities onto you, ignore it, because your focus should be on building, not on battling. Let me leave you with this. Every reaction costs you something: time, energy, focus. And if you're not careful, you'll spend your life responding to things that never deserve your attention. So the next time something tries to pull you out of your zone, pause. Ask yourself, does this deserve my energy? And the answer is no. Don't react. Don't respond. Just ignore, because your peace is too expensive to be given away for free. Thank you for tuning in to the Mindset Manual with me, your host, Myron Williams. If this message hit you hard, make sure you like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs it. I would love to have them join the community. So until next time, stay balanced, stay focused, and keep practicing that emotional intelligence.
The Mindset Manual with Myron Williams.
Let me tell you something you never realized about your life. Burnout doesn't usually arrive with a dramatic crash. It whispers. It shows up as irritability, brain fog, bad decisions, short patience, creative exhaustion, and most entrepreneurs call it just a busy season. No, that may be the beginning of the breakdown, and if you don't step away, everything can slowly start cracking. Refusing to disconnect is exactly what causes these things to fall apart. Because tired leaders, they micromanage. Exhausted leaders, they overreact. Burned out leaders lose perspective. And when perspective goes, here's exactly what happens.
The Mindset Manual with Myron Williams.
How's it going, family? I'm Myron, entrepreneur, father, and student of life. Welcome back to the Mindset Manual. This is where we don't just break down motivation, we build structure, discipline, and emotional intelligence, because success isn't random, it's intentional. And today we're talking about something every entrepreneur needs in their life: vacations. If you don't step away from your business will eventually start taking from you, taking your clarity, your patience, your creativity, even your relationships. You don't burn out because you're working hard. You burn out because you never reset. And today we're going to talk about something most entrepreneurs avoid: why rest is not a reward, it's a responsibility. Let's talk about what staying balanced really looks like. When you're building something that actually matters, clarity is everything. Balance is everything. Focus is everything. But being able to reset matters so much. When you're tired, when you're irritable, when you're not focused, and you're off balance, every little task feels like a huge mountain to climb, when reality is really not that hard. It's your body and your mind that is worn out. Your skills are drained because your mind feels like it's walking through mud. That's when the reset is necessary. We all need it as entrepreneurs. We need that reset to really be successful and to keep our motivation and our energy up so we can be successful. It's hard, I know. I'm going to share a story about myself, a true story about my life over the years of being a solo entrepreneur to having over 40 employees working in my business. Trying to take vacations, trying to find the time to reset. It's never been easy, but it's been something that I had to force myself to do because I can see the results of taking those vacations and how I feel afterwards. I remember being a solo entrepreneur a long time ago. It was just me trying to run my business. I was doing internet business where I was building websites. It was, I went to web design school, learned how to build websites and graphic design. It was just me doing the design work all by myself. But I was doing a lot of websites. I mean, I was doing a tremendous amount of websites and designing stuff. I was taking the calls, the intake for the new clients, finding out what they wanted, doing the graphics, doing the development, the coding, doing everything. If they wanted a store, I was doing the store, everything. So it was a lot of work. It was a lot of work. One-man band is what it was at the time, one-man band. But doing a lot of work, I was starting to get burnt out. We didn't have the AI and all that stuff like now. So it was strictly creating from your mind, what you could create from your mind. And my designs were starting to look very repetitive. Sites were starting to look very similar because I had just been working straight through 20 sites, 30 sites in a row without taking any breaks. And so I decided, hey man, I'm going to go out to Miami for the weekend, take some time off and just try to get my thoughts together. And I remember the first 2 days I was down there, I was cool, got to see the beach and hang out and, go out a little bit. But then I got that email or this client saying, hey man, I need an update on my site. I need to change some stuff. Pay you to take care of it. That was the beginning of the end of that vacation. I started to work on his website from my hotel room. Next thing you know, I was locked in for the full day. I had burnt the whole day out working on this guy's website. And I'm on vacation, mind you. So I was supposed to be relaxing and resetting. But yet, here I was working on his site, knowing I should have just been relaxing. So that was, me being a solopreneur. I couldn't step away from my business because I felt like my customers needed me, but not realizing I needed me. I needed me to be relaxed and reset so I could be better and acquire more customers because my work spoke for itself. But I didn't realize that. I was young and that's just what I did. And that's probably what you do. And you're probably doing it right now when you go on vacations. As time goes on, I didn't realize that, but I knew something wasn't right. So I began to take little mini trips. 2 days here on the weekend just to get away. 3 days here just to get away, to see if I could stay away from work for more than, a couple of days without doing anything. And I started taking those mini trips. Sometime I would be in my mind like, oh my God, I need to get back to the office and get back to work. But those little mini trips actually helped me a lot to refocus myself and to just clear my mind. Sometime I would go to the mountains to a cabin and just sit out and just enjoy nature. Sometime I would go to the beach and party a little bit and enjoy the ocean. I would just do different things to relax myself. I remember over the years, I found a location out in like Boise, Idaho. It was really clean. People are really nice and the air was really great out there. And I would go out there and clear my and just enjoy the peace of that city, of a small city. And that became one of my places that I would fly out and just take a couple days and enjoy that. But I never could get into that full week away or 2 week away or month away from my business. I could never get myself to that level. Being a solopreneur, you run everything. So you have to do everything because that's everything. But when you become a business owner with multiple employees, those employees need to check in with you. So it becomes hard to step away because your employees want to check in with you. They need to ask you this. They need to ask you that. Everything seems like the house is on fire when actually it's not. They know the answers. They just need the enforcement from you to say that, yeah, it's okay. But what I did later, as I started growing in my business and being an entrepreneur, I took a 7-day cruise, like a forced downtime, being on that cruise ship. And it was one of the greatest things for me. When I came back off of that trip, I was totally refreshed, totally ready to go, just totally at peace. And I had all these great ideas and all these great thoughts and wonderful things I came up with during that time. And I was just ready to get back to it. I was anxious, but not really anxious. I was actually in a peaceful state that, like, when I get back next week, I'm going to relax myself for a day or two. When I get back to the office, instead of going straight back to work, I'm just going to take a day and just, unwind back in the office, get my mind, get my thoughts together, write out my task, and then I'm going to get started. So that was the beginning of me being able to successfully take a vacation without working. Now, fast forward later, years of businesses and doing different things, taken a lot of vacations where I actually vacation without working. Yeah, occasionally, can't lie, I'm going to be 100. Sometime you're going to peep at that email. You're going to glance at that text, but you have to put the tools in place to where they don't alert you, unless it's an emergency. Turn on your autoresponder for vacation. Hey, I'm on vacation until this date. I will not be checking my email or voicemail during this period. And people know when they send you that email, he's on vacation or you're on vacation, and they don't expect a response. And that's how I learned to manage my business better and take control of the situations by turning on that autoresponder, putting on do not disturb, or putting my office on away on my virtual phone system. I can set it to away where you can't reach me. Tools like that for myself, for my sanity, for my peace of mind, so I can come back stronger. But like I was saying, as I got bigger and I became a bigger entrepreneur with more employees, I started putting people in place, a manager here for this department, a manager there for that department, and let them run their departments. And when I get ready to go on vacation, I brief them on everything. We have meetings and we go through all the things that may come up while I'm on my vacation. I truly do not want to be bothered unless it's an emergency. And these are what the emergencies are. And I would give them a list. So as time went on, like just a couple summers ago, I geared up to take a 2-month vacation to Asia. And I was able to do that. Mind you, I have 40 employees, 7 different managers over different departments. And I took this 2-month vacation to Asia. I traveled all over Asia for this time, starting in Japan, ending in Thailand, and over a 2-month span. And during that period, I didn't check my email. I didn't really respond to too many messages on WhatsApp or anything like that. Only people that were able to contact me were the managers, and they actually did a really good job of not reaching out to me during that period. They handled everything unless it got to a point where they couldn't answer the question, then they would reach out to me with a gentle message on WhatsApp, and then I would answer it. But for the most part, it was a very calm and relaxed vacation for me because I had the things in place. And looking back on that, that was one of the greatest things that I did for myself and my business, because when I came back, I was able to launch some more apps that I had on my mind. I had designed them in my head. When I came back, I was refreshed and I was ready to go. I became less irritable. I spent a lot of time with my family. So I had that part of my life that I felt like I was missing, not getting to spend enough time with them. I actually got to spend a lot of time with them. So coming off of that trip, I just felt like a new person, and it really balanced me out and allowed me to enjoy the fruits of my labor, the success of my business, by being able to provide that for my family and for myself. And so that's what you have to do for yourself. You can't burn yourself out, always working, never taking any breaks, and not enjoying yourself. And that goes into the vacations, your lifestyle, all these different things. Grind, and never enjoy it. And then next thing you know, you look up and life is over with. It's really short. That's a saying people say, life is short. It truly is. Enjoy it. Enjoy it. Work hard, play hard, but don't work too hard that you don't get a chance to enjoy it in time. You keep saying, I'm going to do it tomorrow, and tomorrow never comes. But that was my story. I wanted to share that with you guys, and I hope you can take that in consideration from somebody like myself, who's been an entrepreneur for a very long time. So let's get back to the lesson now. So let me leave you with this. You didn't start your business just to feel trapped by it. You didn't choose entrepreneurship to be stressed, overwhelmed, and mentally exhausted every day. You chose this path for freedom, for control, for a better life, for you and your family. But here's the truth. If you never step away, you will lose the very thing you built it for. Your business needs your vision, but your vision requires space. And sometimes the most productive thing you can do is step back, breathe, and reset. Because a clear mind makes better decisions. A rested leader builds stronger systems. And a balanced entrepreneur plays the long game. So don't wait until your body forces you to rest. Don't wait until life starts pulling you away. Schedule your reset like your success depends on it, because it does. Thank you for tuning in to the Mindset Manual with me, Myron Williams. If this message hit you hard, please like, subscribe, and share this with another entrepreneur who needs this. And as always, stay balanced, stay focused, and keep practicing that emotional intelligence.
The Mindset Manual with Myron Williams.
Every time you successfully navigate a difficult encounter, every time you choose a thoughtful response over a reflexive reaction, you're building emotional muscle. You are becoming a stronger, more peaceful, and more intelligent person. It's about those moments of awareness right before a reaction occurs. It's about knowing your triggers, understanding them, and actively trying to avoid them with intention. That is a journey worth taking.
The Mindset Manual with Myron Williams.
Welcome, everyone, to the Mindset Manual with your host, me, Myron Williams. This week, we're going to discuss emotional intelligence, recognizing your triggers and mastering your response. We're all entitled to lose control sometimes. We're only human, after all. However, true emotional intelligence isn't just about being perfect. It's about those moments of awareness right before a reaction occurs. It's about knowing your triggers, understanding them, and actively trying to avoid them with intention. So how do you deal with unprovoked aggression? Let's talk about that. Have you ever been in a situation where someone approached you and they were already mad at you for little to nothing? You could tell they were already aggressive or acting out for no apparent reason. We have all experienced this. At that moment, you have a choice. You must take notice of this person and analyze what's happening without feeding into their negativity. That is emotional awareness. Immediately recognizing that this person is having a bad day or a negative energy has taken hold of them. You have to realize that their behavior isn't directed at you. Although it feels personal, it's actually directed at themselves and their own internal struggles. So let's talk about the power of walking away. Once you realize this, the emotional intelligent move is to remove yourself from the situation. Don't say anything. Don't try to diffuse it. Just walk away. The more you speak, the worse it gets, because engaging stimulates your own volatile emotions. You have to shut it down and leave, knowing that this is a trigger for you and nothing good will come from entertaining it. If you stay, it could turn into a violent situation or simply ruin your day. But if you walk away, you will be happy you did. You'll look back later and say, wow, I didn't even let them get to me. I was a bigger person. That is emotional intelligence, controlling your emotions to become stronger and more aware. It's much easier to walk away from a stranger than it is to walk away from someone close to you. When it comes to friends or family, emotional intelligence requires significantly more practice and discipline. These situations can be mentally tough. Your triggers are deeper with people you know. However, we will work on these things. It takes time to learn how to handle those triggers and maintain your composure with loved ones, but the effort is necessary for growth. Strengthening your emotional intelligence will make life so much easier for you in the long run. How do we gain and strengthen this muscle? It takes time, patience, and self-work. It requires you to look at various situations where you reacted, reflect on them, and realize how you could have handled them better. Here at the Mindset Manual, we believe the work starts with calming yourself and finding your balance. Let's talk about the work that can be done building your emotional intelligence. It takes you calming yourself. It takes finding your balance, which is something we're all working on here at the Mindset Manual. If you are in balance and you walk with a certain level of peace, it will be very complicated for anyone to disturb that peace. There is a lot of personal joy in having balance and having peace. The likelihood of you crossing these negative people are way less because positive people will be drawn to your positive energy. But those negative people, they're out there and there's no way to completely avoid them. So working on your personal peace is what helps you when these encounters come along. Let's do a deep dive into power and the self-reflection of empathy. We've covered the first crucial step, recognizing your triggers and developing the awareness to walk away from external negativity. But emotional intelligence isn't just a defense strategy. It's a powerful tool for growth and connection. To truly master it, we need to focus on two more pillars: self-reflection and empathy. Self-reflection, the mirror to your emotions. Think of your mind as a busy city. If you never stop to look around, you'll never truly know what's going on inside. Self-reflection is the intentional act of stopping and observing. When you react to a situation, whether positively or negatively, take 5 minutes later that day to dissect it. Ask why. Don't just settle for, I was mad. Ask, why was I mad? Was it the specific comment or did the comment trigger a deeper insecurity? Was it exhaustion? Was it hunger? Often our emotional response is a cocktail of the immediate situation mixed with our current internal state. And let's talk about empathy. Stepping into the other person's shoes. That's the power of empathy. If self-reflection is looking inward, empathy is deliberately looking outward. It's the ability to understand and share the feelings of the other person. Remember that Karen type of situation we talked about? When you realize they were probably having a bad day and their aggression wasn't really about you, that's the seed of empathy. The true emotional intelligence allows you to recognize someone else's emotional state without necessarily agreeing with their behavior. It lets you say, I see you're in pain, even if the person is expressing their pain in a destructive way. Non-judgmental listening goes a long way. The practice of active listening. When a loved one or a colleague is speaking, don't formulate your reply or think about how to fix their problem. Just listen to understand their feelings. Validate their emotion with a simple statement like, that sounds incredibly frustrating, or I can see why you feel hurt. This simple act often diffuses the situation far better than any advice could. Empathy with boundaries. It's vital to pair empathy with strong emotional boundaries. You can understand a person's pain without taking on the responsibility for their pain or allowing their negative behavior to infect you. This is the ultimate balancing act of emotional intelligence, caring deeply while protecting your peace. So let's talk about some practical real-life techniques for building your toolkit. On-the-spot techniques you can deploy when you feel a trigger or a challenging emotional moment coming on. There's something called a 5x5 breathing rule. This is your emergency brake. When you feel your heart rate rising or your jaw clenching, stop. Inhale deeply through your nose for a slow count of 5. Hold for 5 and exhale slowly through your mouth for 5. Do this exercise 5 times. It forces your physiological system to slow down, shifting you from fight or flight state to back to a place where you can think clearly. Next is the halt check. Before you react with a big emotion, especially with loved ones, quickly check. Am I hungry? Am I angry? Am I lonely? Am I tired? These 4 states dramatically lower your emotional intelligence reserves. If the answer is yes to any of them, the best response is often to address the underlying physical or emotional need first, not the problem that seems to be in front of you. Use I feel statements. When a tough conversation is necessary, focus on your internal experience. Instead of saying, you're always late and it makes me mad, which is an accusation, try, I feel stressed and undervalued when we start our meetings late because it makes me feel my time isn't respected. This communicates your emotion without attacking the other person, making them less likely to become defensive and more open to constructive conversation. As a lifelong entrepreneur, I've always run my business with honesty and integrity. I treat people the way I want to be treated, and I treat all my employees with the utmost respect, viewing them as teammates rather than just workers. This philosophy has earned me great loyalty with my employees who have stayed with me through several business ventures. Entrepreneurship comes with many ups and downs, hurdles and obstacles. I have learned to take every day, every journey, one step at a time, always doing my best in whatever path I choose. My goal is to help other entrepreneurs, whether you own a business or work at a company. I want to help you deal with the daily grind of striving for success. This includes understanding how to handle conflicts, overcome obstacles, and simply how to be a good human to your peers. Here's another technique that will sound very far-fetched, but it works really, really well. Schedule worry time. If you find yourself constantly ruminating over an incident or fear, schedule a short 15-minute worry time each day. When a worry pops up outside of that time, acknowledge it and tell yourself, I'll deal with that during my scheduled worry time. This trains your brain to postpone disruptive thoughts and keeps your focus sharp and present in the moment. Remember, emotional intelligence isn't a destination you arrive at. It's a practice that you have to continue to work at. It's a daily commitment to being more aware of yourself and more understanding of others. Every time you successfully navigate a difficult encounter, every time you choose a thoughtful response over a reflexive reaction, you're building emotional muscle. You are becoming a stronger, more peaceful, and more intelligent person. And that is a journey worth taking years. And if there's one profound truth I've learned, is this: your past is not your prison. Every mistake, every setback, every challenge is just merely data, a lesson learned. It does not define who you are right now or who you are capable of becoming. The key to cultivating a positive mindset is to embrace the present moment. We often allow the shadow of yesterday or the anxiety of tomorrow to steal the peace of today. I encourage you to actively choose to be present. That's where true growth happens. By focusing your energy on the actions you can take today, you are actively creating a better future. Let go of what you cannot change, learn from it, and step forward with resolve. The moment you decide to be fully present in the moment, you reclaim your power and begin building the life you truly desire. Thank you for tuning in to the Mindset Manual with me, Myron Williams. Please subscribe to the channel and turn on your notifications to receive updates on new episodes. We'll continue this conversation next time as we explore the connection between emotional intelligence and professional success. Until then, stay aware, stay balanced, and keep practicing that inner peace. Emotional intelligence, recognizing your triggers.
The Mindset Manual with Myron Williams.
Let me ask you something. Has a single email ever hijacked your entire day? One message, one comment, one opinion, and suddenly your focus is gone. Your energy is off, and now you're questioning everything you built. Or maybe someone criticized your business, and even though you smiled in the moment, you've been replaying that conversation in your head ever since. Yeah, I know the feeling. But here's what most entrepreneurs never realize. The moment you stop taking business personally is the exact moment you start operating at a higher level, more clarity, better decisions, unshakable focus. And today, I'm going to show you how to make that shift.
The Mindset Manual with Myron Williams.
What's going on, family? Welcome back to the Mindset Manual with me, your host, Myron Williams, father, entrepreneur, and student of life. Today, we're going to be discussing how building your business, people will doubt you, people will criticize you, and sometimes people will straight up misunderstand your vision. How do you stay mentally strong when all the noise starts coming your way? That's what this episode is about. We're continuing our breakdown of the 4 agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz, and today we're talking about agreement number 2. Don't take anything personally. Now, this agreement right here, this is emotional armor for entrepreneurs. We're on the road to 20,000, so hit that like and subscribe button for me. Your support is much appreciated. Let me tell you a quick story. Early in my entrepreneurial journey, I had a client cancel a contract we had been working on for weeks. And I remember thinking, man, what did I do wrong? I replayed every conversation, every email, every detail. And the crazy part, weeks later, I found out the real reason. Their company had a budget freeze because their sales numbers dropped that quarter, and nothing to do with me. Nothing. But I spent days stressing over something that was never about me in the first place. And that right there is where most entrepreneurs lose their mental energy. We assume everything is about us. In the 4 agreements, Ruiz explains something powerful. He says, nothing other people do is because of you. At first, that sounds crazy. But once you understand it, it changes how you move in business. Because everybody you deal with is operating inside their own world, their stress, their deadlines, their pressure, their fears. So when someone reacts emotionally to you, most of the time, you're not seeing the real issue. You're seeing their internal pressure leaking out. Ruiz calls this the meiote, because the chaos in people's mind, and trust me, the business world is full of it. Think about these few situations. A client sends you an angry email. Your boss micromanages everything. A competitor starts trash talking your product. Our first reaction, we take it personally. But when you step back and think about it, The client might be getting pressure from their boss. That manager might be scared of losing their job. That competitor might feel threatened by you. So their stress becomes your problem only if you accept it. And most people accept it without even realizing it. Now, here's the twist most people don't talk about. This agreement doesn't just apply to criticism, it also applies to praise. And this is where a lot of entrepreneurs get trapped because when somebody compliments you, your ego loves it. Man, your business is amazing. You're a genius. You're the best consultant we've ever worked with. Feels good, right? But here's the danger. If you believe praise too deeply, you also believe criticism too deeply. And now your confidence depends on other people. One day the market loves you. The next day somebody online says you're overrated. And suddenly your confidence is shaking. Now that's not power, that's emotional dependency. Real entrepreneurs develop something different: internal validation. Your confidence comes from your process, your discipline, your preparation, your work ethic, not from somebody clapping for you. So when praise comes, you appreciate it. When criticism comes, you evaluate it. But neither one controls your mindset, and that's real mental strength. Let me give you a practical technique you can use immediately. I call it the refused gift. Imagine someone walks up and hands you a bag of trash. If you grab it, now it's your problem. But if you refuse it, the trash stays with them. Emotions work the same way. Someone sends an angry message, someone criticizes your work, someone questions your vision. You have two choices: accept the emotional baggage or refuse it. When you refuse it, you stay calm. You analyze the facts, you solve the problem. That's leadership. So let me leave you with this. When you're building something meaningful, a business, a career, a legacy for your family, people will always have an opinion. Some will support you, some will doubt you, some will criticize you. But here's the shift: none of that is your responsibility. Only your response is. Because the moment you start internalizing every opinion, your clarity is lost. You hesitate, you shrink, and you can't afford that. Not where you're going. So here's how to protect your mindset in real time. Separate the facts from the feelings. Ask yourself, is this feedback useful or just emotional garbage? Pause before you react. Give yourself space so you can respond with strategy, not ego. Extract the lesson. Ignore the delivery. Even poorly delivered criticism can contain valuable insight. Stay anchored to your vision. If it doesn't align with where you're going, it doesn't deserve your energy. Because at the end of the day, this is your mission, your timeline, your responsibility to execute. And the more emotionally disciplined you become, the more dangerous you become in a good way. Comfort protects today, but emotional discipline builds tomorrow. If this message helped you shift your perspective, make sure you like and subscribe and hit that share button with someone who may need this. Until next time, stay balanced, stay focused, and keep practicing that emotional intelligence.
The Mindset Manual with Myron Williams.
Let me tell you something most people don't want to hear. You're not stuck because you're unlucky. You're not behind because you missed some big opportunity. You're exactly where your habits have placed you. And I know that might hit a little different because we like to think our future is built on big moments, big decisions, big moves, big breaks. But the truth is, your future isn't built by what you do once in a while. It's built by what you repeat every single day. And if you're honest with yourself, your daily habits might be quietly working against the life you say you want. So today, we're going to talk about it, not from theory, but from real life.
The Mindset Manual with Myron Williams.
Welcome to the Mindset Manual, the place where we talk about the hard truths most people avoid, but the truths that can actually change your life. I'm Myron, entrepreneur, father, and student of life. And today we're talking about one of the harsh truths about success. This is episode 6 of my 8-part series on the harsh truths about success. And I want you to follow me on this journey, not from a place of perfection, but from my real life experiences, because I've lived this one more than once. Go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button for me and leave an honest comment after you finish watching this episode. I'd love to hear what you have to think. The lie we tell ourselves. Let me be real with you. Most people think success is about intensity, grinding hard, pushing harder, having those moments where you lock in. But that's not what changes your life. It's consistency. Consistency isn't exciting. It's not motivational. It doesn't look good on social media, and it doesn't feel powerful in the moment. It feels small. It feels repetitive. It feels easy to ignore. And that's why most people lose, because they underestimate the power of small actions. See, we celebrate the one day we woke up early, but ignore the 5 days we didn't. We'll hype ourselves up for starting something, but be quiet when we don't finish it. We focus on moments, but life responds to patterns. And your patterns, they're telling the truth about your future. Habits are like votes. Every habit you repeat is a vote, not for who you want to be, but for who you are becoming. Every time you hit the snooze button, that's a vote. Every time you procrastinate, that's a vote. Every time you avoid what matters, that's a vote. But it works the other way too. Every time you show up when you don't feel like it, that's a vote. Every time you stay disciplined, that's a vote. Every time you keep your word to yourself, that's a vote. And over time, those votes, they stack up. And they create your identity. That's why some people look naturally disciplined. It's not natural. It's practice. They've cast more votes in that direction. And I had to learn this the hard way, because there was a time in my life where I said I wanted more, but my habits said something completely different. And your habits will always expose what you're really committed to. Let me tell you a little bit about myself and some of the things that I've done in my life to become the person I am today. My friends will always say to me, man, you seem like you have it all together. You have all these different businesses. We know you always doing this and that, and you have these businesses that are successful on so many different levels. How do you do all these things and still have time to hang out with us and go out with us and go to the basketball games and kick it with your kids? And you never seem stressed and you never complain. I never hear you talk about, oh, I had a bad day or this and that about work or nothing. You always just very balanced. How do you do it? You must have a secret twin or twin brother that we haven't met or something like that, man. How are you able to do all these different things, man, and still live your life and be comfortable? And I tell them, just like I tell you guys on this podcast, man, it's about discipline and being organized, which I'll talk about organization on one of my future episodes coming up really soon. But it's about that discipline and being organized. And that's how I'm able to look like, it's just natural. And I don't seem stressed because I'm super organized every single day. I have my tasks. I write out my tasks on a sheet of paper, and I have my task board that I use with TaxApp, which is one of our partners. If you haven't checked out TaxApp, make sure you check out TaxApp. I'll put the link in the description for you. But they have a really good task board. So I write down some of my tasks, and I put some on the TaxApp task board. But the secret to that, writing out tasks, you can write out tasks for a whole month. Anybody can do that. Yeah, I want to do this. I got to do that. I got to do this, and make a list for the whole month. Yeah, we do that. I do that as well. I'll write out all my tasks. I'll put them on the task board for the whole month. All these are really just ideas. They're not really tasks. They're more so like, I want to increase my marketing. I want to do this. I want to do that. I'll put all those on a big, long running list that never ends, right? But that's not my daily task list. Those are just ideas and things that I plan to accomplish for my business over time. But I'll do a weekly task list and I'll break those down into daily tasks. So on Monday, I have a few tasks that I want to accomplish. I may have a couple meetings sprinkled in those tasks, But the secret to that is I never overload a day. I put just enough in there to keep me busy for the 4 to 5 hours a day that I want to work, because I don't work full 8 hour days. I rarely give it an 8 hour day. That's just not who I am. I'm not a 9 to 5 type of guy. I pretty much break my days down into about 4 to 5. I'm in my office. I'm giving it everything for those 4 hours. I don't get up, I only get up to stretch, and I have a sit to stand desk. So I'll press the button, the desk will go up, and I'll stand and stretch, and I'll continue working. So I'm locked in for those hours. I'm very productive during that 4 hour span. But occasionally, some days, a task on my list for Monday is going to not get done Monday. So what I do, I don't stress. I don't press the day and it's like, oh, I'm going to add more time onto my day. I'll just make that task the first task for the next day. So that'll be the first thing I do Tuesday. I'll start there and I'll work through that Monday stuff that I left off, and I'll finish my Tuesday. That way I don't get overwhelmed. I don't get burnt out by trying to put too many things on one day, knowing I can't finish them. I give myself that respect to knowing how much I'm capable to doing in that day before I burn out. Because like I said, I'm working really hard during those 4 hours. I'm not playing around. I'm not messing around. I'm not straying from my task and my plan for the day. I'm really focused. That's how I can do that. And then I'll move on to the next day. And I never jump ahead. If I finish all my tasks for Monday, I don't jump into Tuesday or jump into Wednesday. I leave Tuesday at Tuesday, Wednesday at Wednesday. That's how I do. That's that's what it is. I've done what I needed to do today. I clap for myself for completing my task for the day, and I shut it down and I go ahead and live my life, go play with my kids or go to the park or do whatever I like to do for myself for that day, because I've completed my task for that day and I'm not thinking about tomorrow until I get in the office for tomorrow. And that's how I function. And that's how you should function, because you got to keep your peace and your balance. And that's part of the emotional intelligence that I'm telling you that I talk about on these episodes. All these things contribute to that. Your mental health, your balance, your work, your family, all of that stuff contributes to it. And it gets hard, but you have to focus on these things to be successful. So that's what I tell my friends. This is how I succeed. This is how I'm able to wear a lot of hats in my business, is because I do a lot. In the 4 or 5 hours that I'm working, I'm doing a lot. I'm very disciplined. I'm very organized, and I stick to it. And I stick to my goal. I stick to my task, and I finish whatever it is I set up that I'm going to do in my business. I always see it through those tasks. May take a few days, may take a few weeks, but each day I'm working toward that outcome of the goal of what I'm trying to accomplish. And that's what you need to do as well. But let's continue on. That was my personal reflection. Let's continue on with this lesson. So let me bring this home. As a father and an entrepreneur, I had to face a real question. Am I building the life I say I want, or am I just talking about it? Because it's easy to say you want more from your family. It's easy to say you want financial freedom. You want peace. You want control over your time. But your habits will reveal the truth. Are you managing your time, or are you wasting it? Are you investing in your growth, or are you distracting yourself? Are you disciplined when nobody's watching? Because that's where your future is being written. Not in the big announcements, not in the big plans, but in the quiet moments where nobody sees. I had to check myself on that, because I realized something. I wasn't losing because I didn't know what to do. I was losing because I wasn't consistently doing what I already knew. And that's where most people are. It's not a knowledge problem. It's a habit problem. Let's talk about the habits that quietly destroy your future. Not the obvious ones, but those subtle ones. Scrolling when you should be building. Saying, I'll do it later, knowing you won't. Starting and not finishing. Being busy, but not productive. Those habits don't feel dangerous in the moment. They feel normal. They feel comfortable. But that's the problem, because comfort will keep you stuck. And we've talked about that before. Over time, those small decisions turn into big consequences, missed opportunities, lost time, regret. Not because you didn't care, because your habits didn't match your goals. So let's start rewriting your habits for success. So what do you do, and how do you do that? You don't try to change your whole life overnight. That's where people mess up. They go from 0 to 100 and then they burn out. You start small, but you stay consistent. Pick one habit, just one, and lock in on it. Not for motivation, but for discipline. Because discipline is what carries you when motivation fades. And here's the key. Stop focusing on the outcomes. Focus on the identity. Instead of saying, I want to be successful, ask yourself, what would a disciplined person do today? Then do it over and over and over again, because that's how habits are built. And that's how your future changes. They say anything that you do for 30 days consistent becomes a habit, and you need those good habits. Let me leave you with this. Your habits are writing your story every single day, not loudly, not dramatically, but quietly and consistently, and without your permission. So if you don't like where your life is headed, don't start with your goals. Start with your habits, because the life you want isn't built in the moment. It's built by the choices you repeat when nobody's watching. And at some point, you're going to meet the person that your habits created. The question is, are you going to be proud of who that is? If this episode hit you hard, don't just listen, apply it. You're on this journey with me. Make sure you like and subscribe to stay connected. I'd love to hear what you think about this episode, so leave me an honest comment. Be sure to tune in next week for episode 7. Fear disguises itself as logic. We're building something real here. Thank you for watching the Mindset Manual with me, your host, Myron Williams. And as always, stay balanced, stay focused, and keep practicing that emotional intelligence.
The Mindset Manual with Myron Williams.
Let me ask you something. What if the reason your life hasn't changed isn't because you don't have enough time? Isn't because you don't have enough money? Isn't because you don't have the right opportunity? What if it's because you've been moving but not focusing? See, a lot of people confuse motion with progress. You're busy, you're working, you're trying, but deep down, you're still stuck. Today, we're going to confront why that is.
The Mindset Manual with Myron Williams.
Welcome to the Mindset Manual, the place that we talk about the harsh truths most people avoid, but the truths that can actually change your life. I'm Myron, entrepreneur, father, and student of life. And today we're talking about something that quietly holds a lot of people back. Not laziness, not lack of talent, but lack of direction. Go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button and turn on your notifications. Now let's get into it. Motion versus direction. You can be moving fast and still be going nowhere. Let that sit for a second. Because in today's world, being busy is almost worn like a badge of honor. I've been grinding all day. I've been working nonstop. But let me ask you, working on what? Because if your energy is scattered, your results will be too. See, focus is what turns effort into progress. Without it, you're just stuck spinning your wheels. As a father and an entrepreneur, I had to learn this the hard way. There were seasons where I was doing everything, but accomplishing absolutely nothing meaningful because I wasn't focused. I was reacting. The illusion of productivity. Here's the truth most people don't want to hear. You can fill your entire day and avoid the one thing that actually changes your life. Answering emails, scrolling for ideas, starting things, but never finishing them. That's not productivity. That's distraction disguised as effort. Real growth requires intentional focus. It requires you to sit down and say, this is one thing that matters right now. And then having the discipline to stay with it, not jump, not switch, not escape when it gets uncomfortable, because focus gets uncomfortable. That's why most people avoid it. Why most people stay stuck. People don't stay stuck because they're incapable. They stay stuck because they're never commit long enough to anything. They move from idea to idea, opportunity to opportunity, plan to plan, always chasing something new, but never building anything real. And the truth is, consistency beats intensity every single time. You don't need more ideas. You don't need more follow through. You don't need more motivation. You need more discipline. And most importantly, you need to decide what matters and give it your full attention. Building real focus. So how do you actually fix this? It starts with clarity. You need to define, what are you building? Who are you becoming? What actually matters right now? Not 5 things, not 10 things, one. Because focus requires elimination. You have to cut out the noise, cut out the distractions, cut out the unnecessary commitments, cut the habits that are stealing your attention and replace them with structure. Create time blocks, set clear targets, track your progress, and most importantly, stay with it long enough to see the results. That's where most people fail. They quit right before it starts working. Let me tell you a little story about myself and something that's highly relatable and fairly new. Well, about 2 years ago, 2 years old, so still fairly new. And it all goes into what I'm talking about, this topic about being focused and not distracted by other things. I wanted to start this podcast like 2 years ago. I wanted to start it, but I was doing so many things. I had other businesses. I had a new child, a newborn son. I was working on my new house. I was doing all type of stuff, and my focus wasn't there. I had a lot of distractions. So I set up the channel, and I think I recorded 1 or 2 videos. It took me 2 months to edit those videos, and the editing wasn't that great. It took me another 2 months to post the videos, and I only posted part of one of them and a couple clips, but I wasn't really focused, right? So I didn't do any research on how to do a podcast. I didn't do any research on what equipment I needed. I didn't do what software I needed to edit, or what to put into the channel, or how to set up the channel. I just get a YouTube account and post a video, call it whatever, and put some videos on there and see what happens, right? I didn't have the focus. I didn't have a true plan. I just had an idea, and I was super excited about it because I heard, a lot of people were doing great podcasts, and I watch a lot of podcasts. So I'm like, I could do this. I have a lot to talk about. I know a lot of knowledge I want to share with people. I want to help people. But in reality, I didn't have a consistent plan or time. I didn't carve out the proper time for me to dedicate toward doing the actual podcast, because this stuff isn't easy. People think that, oh, you just post a video and boom, 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 you're viral and you're successful and you make a ton of money. It doesn't work that way. It takes building the channel first with behind the scenes, the things that go into setting up your channel to make it find where people can find it and locate it on YouTube. There's millions and millions of channels. So you have to build your channel properly, put the right description in, put the right SEO stuff, the right hashtags, things like that. You have to set up with the channel right. And then you have to find a niche or a topic that you can talk about that people want to hear. So all these different things have to go into the planning phase of it. And during the planning phase and the background phase is when a lot of people get distracted and they lose some of that hype and some of that energy to do this. It's like, oh, I got to do this. I got to do that. Those weren't part of the plan that I wanted to do. I just wanted to put out a couple videos and make some money, right? It doesn't work like that. But, I fell into that too. Like, I can do this, I can do it. But turns out I didn't really have the time or the dedication or the focus at that time. I had the right idea as far as what I wanted to do, because I have a lot of knowledge to share with you guys. I have a lot of experience and a lot of wisdom in a lot of business industries. And I've really worked really hard on my emotional intelligence. I want to share that with people. So I have to sit back and restructure. First off, get my life in order to where I could focus on doing my podcast consistently, meaning let my kids grow up a little bit more so I can have more time with them. Let my businesses settle down. The things that weren't really being productive for me, let those go or put somebody in place to run them for me. Things like that. These are the things I needed to do prior to launching the show so I could actually do a show and have everything in order, the right time, the right format, the right equipment, the right editing equipment, all these different things to do a podcast. And most people, they start to fade when they realize how much stuff involves into going into doing a show. There's a lot that goes into doing this show, to make it look the way it looks, to make it sound the way it sounds, the production, the thumbnails, all these different things. There's a lot of work that goes into that stuff. And getting over the hump, just getting to your first 1,000 subscribers. Most podcasters fall off after that because it can be really tough to get that first 100 subscribers, let alone 1,000 subscribers. It can take a long time, but if you're consistent, you're putting out content every day, good content that people want to hear every single day, you can get there. Most people fall off before they get to 100, before they get to 1,000, they quit. They're like, it's way too hard. But don't quit before you see the results. You have to commit to it. Like me, I committed to doing it. I committed to putting out good content, doing my research, doing my studies on my topics, and putting out great stuff. So that's all a part of being consistent. And I just want to share that story with you. And I hope you guys will keep listening to my stories. So let's get back to the actual lesson. Here's the shift that changes everything. Your life doesn't change when you do more. Your life changes when you do more of what matters consistently. That's the shift. Not more effort, better direction. Because once your focus is aligned, your energy stops being wasted. Your time becomes intentional. And the results finally start to reflect your potential. Let me leave you with this. You're not stuck. You're not behind. You're definitely not incapable. But if you keep dividing your attention, you will keep delaying your results because your future is built on what you choose to focus on today. So make better decisions. Pick something that matters and give it your full attention long enough for it to grow. Because once you do that, everything changes. Thank you for watching the Mindset Manual with me, Myron Williams. If this message hit you hard, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel and share it with someone who may need to hear it. I would love to have them join the community. As always, I want you to stay balanced, stay focused, and keep practicing your emotional intelligence.
The Mindset Manual with Myron Williams.
Let me ask you something. If we stripped away your social media, your appearance, and everything you show to the world, would your success still exist or would it disappear overnight? Because a lot of people aren't building success. They're performing it, leasing lifestyles that they can't afford, posting wins that they haven't earned, smiling in public while stressing in private. And here's the dangerous part. The longer you fake it, the harder it becomes to face the truth. Because now you're not just building a life, you're maintaining a lie. And if you're not careful, you'll wake up one day with the image you wanted, none of the freedom you needed.
The Mindset Manual with Myron Williams.
Welcome to the Mindset Manual with me, your host, Myron Williams, father, entrepreneur, and student of life. Today is a special one for you guys. Stop faking success. Just an episode we're talking about what's going on in the world. Faking success. Why do people do it? Who knows? They have their reasons, but here we're building something. We're not faking success. We're keeping it real. If you haven't already hit that like and subscribe button, do so for me right now. Now let's get into our topic. There are a lot of people out here looking successful. Nice car, clean Instagram, motivational caption, winning on the surface. But behind the scenes, debt, burnout, confusion, pressure to keep up an image that they can't sustain. Let me say this clearly. Faking success is one of the fastest ways to destroy your real future. And if you don't catch it early, you'll spend your years building something that looks good, but feels empty. As a father and entrepreneur, I've had moments where I felt the pressure. Pressure to look like I had it all figured out. Pressure to prove I was winning. Pressure to show results before they were real. And the truth is, that pressure doesn't come from success. It comes from comparison. You scroll, you see everybody leveling up. Suddenly you feel like you're behind. So what do people do? They start performing instead of building, posting instead of progressing, talking instead of executing, and slowly they trade real growth for temporary validation. Here's what nobody talks about. Faking success is expensive, not just financially, but mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Because now you've created a lifestyle that your real income can't support. Now you're stuck maintaining an image instead of building a foundation. Now every decision you make is based on how it looks instead of what actually works. And that's dangerous because eventually the truth always collects. Let me give you something real. Real success is quiet in the beginning. It doesn't look impressive. It doesn't get likes, and it doesn't get an applause. It looks like discipline. It looks like consistency. It looks like working when nobody else is watching. And it looks like saying, I'm not here yet, but I'm building something real. And that takes confidence because now you're no longer performing for the people. You're committed to your process. So how do you shift? Here's what I had to learn. Number one, tell yourself the truth. Stop exaggerating your position. Stop skipping steps. You don't need to be ahead. You need to be honest. Number two, build your foundation before your image. Skills, systems, discipline. Let those grow first. The image will follow naturally. Number three, detach from validation. Likes don't build businesses. Attention doesn't equal income. Focus on what actually moves your life forward. Number four, move in silence when necessary. Everything doesn't need to be posted. Some of your best seasons should be private. Let me leave you with this. A fake version of success might get attention today, but it will cost you everything tomorrow. Because success isn't what people see. It's what you can sustain. It's what you can grow. It's what you can repeat. It's what brings you peace when nobody is watching. So don't rush to look successful. Build something real and let success catch up to you. If this hits you today, do me a favor. Hit that like and subscribe button and share the channel with someone who needs to hear it. Because we're not chasing attention over here. We're building real lives. This is Myron for the Mindset Manual. Thank you for tuning in. Stay balanced, stay focused, and keep practicing that emotional intelligence.
The Mindset Manual with Myron Williams.
Nobody cares about your dream. Let me tell you one of the harshest truths about success. Nobody cares about your dream. Not your friends, not your coworkers, not even most of your family. And the moment you truly accept that, your life will change.
The Mindset Manual with Myron Williams.
How's it going, family? Welcome back to the Mindset Manual, the place that we talk about some of the hard truths that most people avoid, but the truths that can actually change your life. I'm Myron, entrepreneur, father, and student of life. And today we're talking about one of the harsh truths about success. This is episode 1 of my 8-part series on the harsh truths about success. Thank you for joining me as I give my real life testimony on entrepreneurship and strengthening your emotional intelligence so you can handle any situation. Growing up, people say, follow your dreams, believe in yourself. But most people support dreams emotionally, not logistically. They clap for the idea, but they rarely help you carry the weight. Speaking of clapping for someone, why don't you clap for me right now by hitting that subscribe and like button? I truly appreciate that. As an entrepreneur and a father, I've learned quickly that the world doesn't slow down for your goals. The bills keep coming and your responsibilities grow. Nobody wakes up thinking about your dream the way that you do. So I want to tell you a little story about this product I invented called the Thought Claw. It's a kitchen device used for defrosting frozen food using the water method. A lot of us use that, put your frozen food in the sink, run water over it, or try to put a pot or something on top of it to make it thaw quick. You know how it goes trying to thaw frozen meat. You know how it is trying to thaw some chicken or something. So I created a device to solve that problem. What people said was a corny idea turned out to actually be a really good idea for me. So I just want to tell you how I went through the ups and downs of developing that product and actually bringing it to market, and just some of the trials and tribulations and some of the issues that I faced, and how many times I wanted to stop, how many times I got frustrated, and how many times I'm like, yeah, I don't know if this is going to work, but I want to tell you, that I stuck with it. I used the discipline and I stuck with it. So I'll go all the way back to how I came up with the idea. So first, my girlfriend at the time she called to the house and asked me to take out some chicken and thaw it for her so she could cook it when she got home. I was on my Xbox playing some 2K or something, some game back then. I was a gamer way back then, and I forgot. I mean, I just forgot, by the time she got home, she's like, "Where's the chicken? You didn't take it out." I'm like, "Oh man, my bad. I was on the game. I forgot." But I said, you know what if somebody had something for that? Somebody had a device to solve that problem. And I looked around, I looked online. I didn't find anything for thawing, other than the microwave. Who wants to use the microwave to thaw their meat? That's not safe or sanitary. But I couldn't find anything. So I was like, what do we do? How do we usually thaw these things? And a lot of people use the water method. A lot of us use the water method. So I'm like, what can I do to keep the meat in the water and make it thaw properly? And so I did some research on the water method and water temperatures and all these different things that brought me to an idea. What if I made a claw that attaches to your sink and then holds the package underwater and thaws quickly? Random idea, right? Yeah, same. I thought the same. So I talked to a couple of my friends about it. I'm like, "Hey, man, I'm thinking about making this device to thaw food underwater." And they're like, "Man, that's stupid. Nobody's going to buy that. You wasting your time. You might as well do something else with your money, man. You wasting your time." So I'm like, I think it's a good idea, man. I mean, there's nothing else out there like it. So, I might as well try it, man. Whatever, you're wasting your time. So me being me, the entrepreneur that I am, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna try it. So I didn't know exactly how I was gonna make it. But what I did was one night, me and her were just sitting up, watching TV, and I said, "Man, I got an idea. Let's go to Walmart and buy a bunch of random stuff, and I'm gonna put something together. Use my ingenuity and put something together." So we did. We went to Walmart. I bought a bunch of random stuff and came back and chopped it all up, cut it all up, paste, tape, glue, tried all things type of thing, popsicle sticks and little toy rakes and suction cup, big suction cups. I tried all type of stuff to try to come up with it. But eventually I came up with something that actually worked. I came up with a claw out of some wires and some metal wires and some tape and a suction cup, and I made this ugly device. But at the end of the day, it held the food underwater and it thawed faster. So I'm like, I got something. I got something. I got something. So now I had to figure out how to make it. How was I going to make it? And that became a little bit of a challenge for first time, person inventing a product. It really became a challenge to figure it out. What was the step? So I put together a little bit of a roadmap. Okay, I'm gonna figure out how to get a prototype, an actual prototype, and then find somebody to manufacture it, and then I'm gonna put it out, and I'm gonna be filthy rich. That's how the dream plays out. That's how all of our dreams play out, right? So first step was prototype. I called a bunch of companies trying to find somebody to make a prototype for me. Turns out prototyping is very expensive. It's a very expensive process. They were quoting me 20 and 30,000 to make a prototype, and I wasn't ready to spend that kind of money onto a prototype. So, me being me, I said, what about, I have been seeing on YouTube like 3D printers and reading in the news about how 3D printers were starting to take hold at that time. And, like I said, this was 10, 12 years ago. So 3D printing wasn't where it was now, where everybody has one. Back then, if you had a 3D printer, you were on a different level. But I went ahead and I invested in one. It was maybe like $1,200. I think I ordered from this small 3D printing company, and I learned how to work it. It wasn't really that complicated. They had a lot of, tech to help you learn how to use it. And I developed, I probably made 15, 20 copies of this thaw cloth type of thing, changing the size and the shape of this and the height and all of this and the strength. But eventually, after all that prototyping, I came up with a solid device that actually looked decent and it worked really well. So next thing I was like, okay, I got this. I gave a couple out to a couple friends and they tested it. Hey man, it worked. It actually worked. It works. It works. But they still were like, I don't know if I would buy it though. I don't know if I would buy it. Still your circle, not really being supportive, but they're with you, but they're not with you. Kind of that type of thing, like on the fence. Like, it might be work, it might not, enough to stray you from being successful. That's what friends do. A lot of them will stray you from being successful. So you have to be careful when you share your ideas with people because they will stop you from getting to the next level. But not me. I kept going and I kept going. So then I started looking for manufacturers. I had my prototype, I had a working prototype. I started looking for manufacturers and I contacted several manufacturers and met with several manufacturers. And finally I nailed down one. And the guy who's really cool, he was local. And he was like, well, man, where's your patent? Do you have a patent on this or a patent pending or anything? I was like, nah, I haven't. I don't have a patent. I don't know anything about patents and stuff. He was like, man, you need to get a patent on this. I think this is a really good idea. And that was the first time I really, he's a manufacturer. For him to say it's a really good idea, it made me feel good. Like, okay, he manufactures products. He knows what works and what doesn't. He was like, man, I can actually connect you with the patent attorney who can get this done for you. And he did. He connected me with a great attorney. She was really good, really thorough. She got my patent in just a few months and I was ready to go. So we started the process with him. The process of building a plastic device is not just simple as you think. They have to build a mold, which compresses the plastic and makes your device. And that mold process takes a while. During the molding process, while they were building the mold, I took some of my prototypes and I started making little videos and sharing them on social media for people to see and get their input and their feedback of what they thought about my product. And the reception wasn't that great. There were people laughing and like, oh man, that's stupid. That's not going to do anything. And then, I had some people that, that clapped for me like, oh, that's nice. That's tight. I like that. So it was mixed emotions, but nobody like, go for it, like that type of deal. I didn't get that from them, but it was just really to get a feedback. But me putting it out there on social media, and I don't really have a big following at the time on social media. I didn't really have a big following. And crazy thing is I was on vacation, just vacationing on the beach, and I get a call, a New York number. I'm like, I don't really know anybody in New York. So I answered it or whatnot, whatever, I answered it. I answered all my calls. I had the same number 30 years. So I answer calls and stuff. It was a person from Good Morning America. Yeah, Good Morning America. They were calling me and I'm like, this is a joke. Who quit playing on my phone? This is a joke. Why are you calling me? Everybody knows Good Morning America. Why are you calling me? And she's like, you don't believe me? Just, you got the number, call back. And my name is, such and such. Call back and ask for me. I was like, all right, I'll do that. So I called back and they were like, ABC Studios, this is Good Morning America. How can I help you? And I said the lady's name and they connected me. I'm like, oh, wow, this is real. She was like, yeah, we saw your product online and we want to invite you to come do a new segment that we have called Shark Tank Your Life with Lori Greiner from the actual Shark Tank show. And I'm like, really? Me, I'm just a local guy just doing my thing. She said, we know, that's why we want you. We're looking for people like you, innovators with new products, and we want to put you on the show. It was, I was blown away. But long story short, they flew me out to New York. I did the show. It turned out great. I met Lori, got a lot of advice from her, and things went great. Fast forward, I got my website up. I started getting sales from that, and we started moving along. Well, I jumped ahead. We started getting sales. They were pre-sales because the product wasn't actually made yet. The manufacturer was still working on getting the product out. But eventually we got the product, got it, started selling and filling those orders, and we started moving into some of the online stuff on the online sales. And we started actually generating some momentum. And once again, I get another call. I get a random call. This time it was from Florida. And I'm like, okay, what's going on? I answer, and it's Home Shopping Network. Yeah, the big home shopping network that sells products 24/7 all day. They were calling me asking about Thaw Claw. They wanted to get the product on the show. They thought it would do great. We did the show. We sold out in like 2-3 minutes. The product sold out on Home Shopping Network. So that little bit of social media push that I did, where I was just sharing it with people, it actually got out there. It got to HSN. It got to Good Morning America. It opened a lot of doors for me. And I got a lot of calls from distributors from being on those shows and things like that. So it opened a lot of doors for me. But if you go back to the first part of my story, when I told people about my idea, they laughed and they said it wasn't a great idea and it wouldn't sell. But I had the drive and the strength in myself, belief in myself, to keep pushing forward. And I had an idea. I believed it was a great idea. And that's all that mattered. It didn't matter what other people thought. I thought it was a great idea. And so I went forward with it. I followed the steps. I got the prototype, the patent, got it manufactured. I got it on the show, and the rest is history. We look back now, 12 years later, I'm still selling the product. I'm still making residual income off of the product. It's still available on Amazon and Walmart and stuff like that. You can still buy it right now to this day, 12 years later. And I hope you go pick up one. I'm not trying to sell you a Thaw Claw, but you can go pick up one. It actually does really work well. I'll put the link in the description on this video so you can go pick up one. But yeah, it really works great. Point of my story is I didn't allow people to distract me from my goal. I had that drive and discipline and the emotional strength and intelligence to get through that situation of people doubting me and telling me it wasn't a good idea. And for you have to be able to do the same thing. If you have a good idea for a product or a business, don't let your friends or family deter you from doing that, because you could be really successful at it. Just do it. Take your shot at it. Go follow the steps, put out a timeline or a list of steps that you're going to take and define it, a business plan, and execute it and stick to it, and you will be successful. So that was one of my life experiences. I just wanted to share that story with you because that was like my first big product and it did well for me. But I want you to always remember, your dream, it belongs to you, which means the responsibility also belongs to you. I used to get upset because I watched people that call themselves my friends celebrating people that they barely know for having success. But now I don't need their flowers. I can buy my own in any color and any scent that I want. So what did we learn today? What did we learn? Nobody cares about your dreams. It's not a curse. It's freedom. It's freedom to create anything you want without judgment. It's the freedom to not be influenced by what anyone else thinks. I've learned to paint my own dreams without sharing my ideas or plans with anyone. Why allow anyone to douse water on your flame? Follow your dreams and work hard to accomplish them. I'm living proof that dreams can and do come true. Guys, honestly, I can go on forever, but let's wrap this episode up and pick up on the next one, episode 2, where I'm going to discuss how discipline beats motivation. Thank you guys for watching and sharing this journey with me on the Mindset Manual. If you haven't already, hit that like and subscribe button. I would really appreciate you clapping for me by doing so. And if you know anyone that needs to hear my testimony, please share this video with them. So until next time, stay focused, stay balanced, and keep practicing that emotional intelligence.
The Mindset Manual with Myron Williams.
Let me ask you something. Have you ever felt like no matter how hard you work, it's still not enough? You're putting in the hours, you're doing what you're told, you're staying disciplined, but the results, they don't match the effort. Here's the uncomfortable truth. There's millions of hardworking people in the world. Many of them are still struggling financially. Hard work alone doesn't build wealth. And if you don't understand what does, you can spend your entire life exhausted and still stuck.
The Mindset Manual with Myron Williams.
Hi, family. Welcome to the Mindset Manual, the place where we talk about the harsh truths most people avoid, but the truths that can actually change your life. I'm Myron, entrepreneur, father, and student of life. And today we're talking about one of the harsh truths about success, the myth that hard work alone creates success. This is episode 5 of my 8-part series on the harsh truths about success. Please click that like and subscribe button so you can continue listening to my real life experiences. So now let's get into the topic for today. Hard work matters, but effort without direction leads to exhaustion. Success requires learning, strategy, and adaptation. Let me tell you a little story about when I started my very first serious business when I was around 21 years old. That was my very first serious business. So I was going to college out in Alabama, studying business management and accounting, just trying to be a businessman. What I always wanted to be was a businessman. So why, if you want to be a businessman, of course, you got to study business. So I was going to school, doing really well, making really great grades, but I was just wondering, what was I going to do with this business degree? What was it going to do for me? And, back then, hip hop music, I should say, was starting to really take off. You had labels coming up like Bad Boy Entertainment, and it was Death Row. And in the South, we had No Limit Records and Cash Money Records. And that movement, or those movements from all of those labels, really sparked my attention. They really had my mind really going like, man, this is great. These guys are from the same type of place that I'm from. They're from the same type of background that I'm from and surroundings. And if they can do it, why can't I do it? I'm thinking like I could do what they do. I'm a businessman or aspiring to be a businessman. I'm in college. I heard some of Master P's story about his college and P. Diddy's stuff about his college. I heard these stories like, yeah, I went to college and I learned this. I got into the business and, I left college to pursue my music industry stuff. And I'm thinking like, well, I've learned a lot in college. These guys are from the same place. They got the same drive. I have the same drive that they have. Why not go for it? But the problem was I felt like, well, I'm stuck in Alabama. No knock on Alabama, but the music business isn't that great in Alabama at the time. At that time, it wasn't really that great. Music business wasn't anything. None existed in Alabama at that time. So I'm thinking like, where can I go still close to where I was? They didn't want to go too far out of the South. I like the South. And where can I go? I was hearing at that time, Outkast was coming up and the Dungeon Family was coming up, and they had their own Atlanta movement going on. So I'm thinking, hey, Atlanta's right up the street. Let's just go to Atlanta. So that's what I did. I was like my 20th birthday, I remember. My 21st birthday, I told my mom right after my birthday, I'm packing up, I'm going to Atlanta, and I'm going to pursue this music stuff. And she was like, boy, you crazy. You going all the way to Atlanta to chase some music stuff, and you don't even know anything about music. You don't even play any instruments. You haven't played the piano since you was like 6 years old. I'm like, yeah, it's not about me being a musician. I'm not trying to be a musician. I'm trying to be an executive. And, like Barry Gordy, that's one of the names that she would recognize was Barry Gordy. She wouldn't recognize Master P or P. Diddy, but she recognized Barry Gordy. She's like, Barry Gordy, that's Motown. That's huge, Yeah, I know, but there's a new level of music now. It's the Southern music, and the labels are coming together is what I was trying to explain to her. But let me fast forward a little bit. So I packed up my stuff. I went to Atlanta to pursue my dreams, pursue this. I wanted to stay in college so I can continue to learn about business, but I wanted to get closer to the music scene, which was Atlanta. So I got in school in Atlanta. I started making connections around the city. I started going to the nightclubs and going to the DJ events and going to different places and different concerts and gaining access and gaining connections and talking to different people and learning how to connect with this industry and understand how it worked. And so I got a lot of connections. As I was coming up through the ranks in Atlanta, I was approached by some guys about doing a music video show. Back then, I think it was I would compare it to like Rap City or one of those shows like that, where artists would come on and you would interview them and then you would play their videos and talk about their new music and stuff like that. During that time, there were a lot of new artists coming out, and there were a lot of artists trying to come out of the South because Outkast had sparked that whole movement. So the labels were looking for a way to duplicate Outkast. So they were looking for a lot of artists. They were looking for labels that could duplicate that sound and that look. So my goal was to search out an artist like that. That's what they were looking for. So let me search out some artists that sound like them, look like them, move like them, and try to get access to, to the labels. But what better way to do that when these guys approached me about the show was I would have access to artists that were already on the rise, had already signed deals, and I would also be in the underground and stuff. So I could talk to them about the music and learn about the music. So I accepted the gig. And I started doing interviews with different artists. We had a lot of artists on the Nelly and 8 Ball and MJG and all these different guys, 3 6 Mafia, all these different guys, UGK. We had all these underground artists that I loved on the show. And a lot of these guys were super down to earth. So they told me a lot about the business, how it worked, how they had to, all the things they had to do to get into the business and to get a deal and all this stuff. So I learned a lot from within the industry, more than I was learning from the college. The college was talking about the legal aspects of it and the accounting and stuff like that. But the artist was telling me about the show business part, the show and the business. And I learned a lot about that. So I took those two things and put it together. I started my first label. I started going out looking for studios at that time. So I found a couple producers that would work with me at within my budget. And those producers start telling me about different talent shows that you can go to and, scout talent. It's like, that's a great way to find artists. They're doing their performances, they're doing stuff like that. And you just talk to them. A lot of them are hungry. They'll work with you. So I went through it. I went to a lot of shows. I talked to a lot of artists. I went to a lot of their studio sessions and their performances and just trying to find the right fit for what I wanted to do with my label. And trust me, it was a lot of work, but I continued to work. I continued to do the show, market the show, promote the show, meet the artists, go. I was basically sleeping 2-3 hours a day. I was always running, always working, always doing my stuff. And it seemed like it was not going anywhere. It's like running in mud. You can't go anywhere fast. It was just always a constant grind every day. So I do the show. I interview an artist. I would play their videos, help edit the show, do all these things. And then later on, I would go out with the artist. Going out with artists to hang out and meet people, their industry contacts and stuff like that. So I had that part down of connecting with the artists and moving through that. But that was just only part of the work. The work was to build a label. And in that process, I'm like, okay, well, I'm with the artist. I'm learning all the business. Finding the artist right now and getting the artist off the ground isn't going to be easy. It's going to require a lot more money than I anticipated. So I said, let me take a step back. I did a lot of work, but I hadn't signed any artists yet. So I took a step back. I used the show, which was the platform for connecting with the artists. I used the show to get to the labels in another way, build a relationship with the label. So I started telling the labels, hey, I'll showcase your artists on my show. I'll play their video and I will market their album in the streets of Atlanta. I had a nice street team. So I put together a great street team so we could put out a lot of flyers and posters and demos and stuff at all the events in Atlanta because Atlanta had a lot going on. So I would sell the label a package on promoting their artists in the city of Atlanta and getting on the show. And they ate it up. But what it also did for me was gave me a lot of connections with Def Jam and Sony and Island Records and Arista and all these different labels, Epic Records. They spent a lot of money with me and I had a lot of connections in the industry. So I was working really hard. Next, what did that lead to though? I started promoting parties around the colleges, which the labels really love. They wanted that college access. So that in itself helped me build a brand for my label because I was promoting the parties under my brand. So as the college people saw my brand just for a party, and then I would bring an artist. My goal in my mind was to brand recognition. The college kids will know that I throw the best parties. When I release my first artist, they're going to know, oh yeah, this guy, his stuff is always live. His parties are live, so his music is going to be live. A lot of work. Those parties were a lot of work. That promotion was a lot of work. All of it was a lot of work. But I started to get burnt out. I started feeling like I'm doing all of this. I'm making money, but I'm literally killing myself. I'm up all night, I'm partying, I'm drinking, doing other things I shouldn't be doing, and I'm just overworking. At this time, I think I had been in the industry maybe about 4 years. So I was, 24 at the time, going on 25. Great. I had bought a house. I had my own house, bought my first house, all that. I had a nice car, nice clothes, nice things and stuff like that. It was great. But I felt myself mentally burning out from working so hard. And that's a part of the grind. That's one of the harsh truths about success. There's a lot of work involved to get to that next level. I mean, I was becoming exhausted from all of those hours and all those different things I was doing or trying to do. I had a semi strategy of what I was trying to do, but I didn't have a clear path to success. And it led to my exhaustion and it led to me being burnt out. And I had to figure something else out. So I started to slow down on the parties a little bit. I said, let me get back into what my goal was, which was to launch the label. So I started more so focusing on submissions. So I put out ads in all of the local music magazines and newspapers. I put out put out an ad that I was looking for artists. I was looking for talent. And you can submit your demo to me and I would listen for it. Let the music come to me instead of me going to the music. That became my new strategy, working smarter, not working harder. Let the music come to me. Let it all come into my office. Open it up with me and my assistant, and we listen to it and find what we like. We had the pictures right there. We had the music right there. We had their contact information. So no longer were we going out. And by this time, I had saved some money up. So I had the ability to actually, if I found an artist, to put some money behind them. And mind you, I was still doing the show. I still had my street team, but I had other people running the stuff. I only had to appear on the show every now and then and do my special segments with some of the bigger artists. I had some other people doing some of the other interviews, and I had a street team running all of the promotions. So it gave me time to focus on the music, which I wanted to do. And eventually I did. I focused on it, found a couple artists. I found an R&B singer that I like. She had a really nice look, that Atlanta look, kind of like that Total, Escape, TLC type of vibe. She had that. So I liked her. I worked with her in the studio and I ended up signing. So after I signed her, I found a group that was kind of like on the edge of like the Goody Mob, but they also had like a kind of a Onyx feel. If anybody remembers Onyx, they had that both feel. One guy was from New York, one guy was from Texas, and they kind of had this little thing going together. So I listened to their music, went to the studio with them, went to their studio in their house and, vibe with them, and I signed them. So I had two groups, an R&B group, R&B artists and this rap group, good group. All right, I'm like, I got two artists. Let's go. Let's hit the studio. Let's go. I had made all these connections with all these different studios in the cities, all these producers in the city. And I'm like, hey, I got my people now. I'm going to come. They're like, yeah, come on in, man. We got you. We'll set you up with a package and let you get to work. So I did. Got to work. I started going to the studio with these artists. We started working on their albums, working on their image, working on their stage presence, all these different things. I was burning a tremendous amount of money trying to manage these artists. Because mind you, these artists have their own problems. They got their own bills. They got their baby mamas. They got their baby daddies. They got all these different things. And me being a young man, 25 years old, man, I got my own stuff I'm trying to do. I'm not daddy. I don't have any kids. It's a lot of pressure for a young man to do. So I kept working and I kept working, I kept working, I kept working. But eventually all that work on the label, I never actually got an album out. the R&B singer, she got pregnant with a child. That was going to be at least a year and a half of her being down, having a baby. She, her voice was changing, her look was changing, everything. So that was pretty much shelved. That was pretty much shelved. My male group, they were good. They were a little hardcore. They end up getting into it over a woman, and that group broke up. So it turned out all that work, 8-9 months to a year working with these artists, all this time in the studio, all this money that I spent in the studio was all for nothing. Pictures I had done little mini videos with them, all this different stuff. I had no artists, so I couldn't even shop a deal with the labels because I had no artists. The groups were basically done. So all that work was done and it failed. And I'm not ashamed to say that it failed. It gave me a great learning experience. It was a very expensive learning experience, but it was. But the reason I failed, when I turn back the clock and I think about why I failed at the music business, in that area of the music business, and I was successful in other parts of the music industry, as I'll talk about in some of my other stories, I went on to manage artists, big artists, and tour with artists and do all that. But my label attempt failed. The reason it failed is because I didn't have a strategy. I didn't have a clear strategy of what I was doing with the label. I wasn't focused. I had an idea, but I didn't have a strategy. I didn't lay out the path to success. I was doing a whole lot of other things, and I never put together a clear, direct strategy. How much money is going to cost? Am I going to focus on one artist, 2 artists, or 3 artists? Am I going to try to focus in Atlanta? Am I going to focus on radio? Am I going to focus on this? I didn't have a clear strategy to do anything with the label, and that's why I failed. You want to start a business, you got to put together a strategy, a method of operation direct to where you're trying to get to success. Don't stray off into all these other little things or these other little paths. Don't stray off. Stay focused on the goal. You're going to get exhausted if you start straying off into these other things. Like I was burnt out. I did so many different things. I got burnt out. I needed to keep a straight path to success, a label with an artist. Get the album done, get a video done, shop it to a label. That was my strategy. Instead, I had multiple artists, managing multiple personalities, promoting over here, promoting over there, only putting about 30% of my time and energy into my label. My other time was into my show, into promoting these groups for the other labels, out in the night, just enjoying, the entertainment business. I wasn't clearly focused and I didn't have a clear strategy. Don't make the same mistake that I did, especially with the music business. You have to be ultra focused on what you're trying to do. So success requires learning, strategy, and adaptation. Hard work opens the doors, but strategy decides which door you walk through. Hey guys, I want to say thank you for joining me on the Mindset Manual. It's been a pleasure to share my stories with you. I appreciate you for listening. If you haven't already, hit that like and subscribe button. Would you please do so now? And if you know anybody that needs to hear this story, please share it with them. I love them to join the family and be a part of this community. Stay tuned. Next week, we're going to do episode 6. Part 6 is about your habits or writing your future. Thank you for tuning in. Stay blessed, stay balanced, and keep practicing that emotional intelligence.
The Mindset Manual with Myron Williams.
Comfort is killing your future, and you probably don't even realize it. It feels safe. It feels earned. It even feels like peace. But what if I told you the very thing you call comfort is the exact reason you're not where you're supposed to be? So the real question is, are you building a life or slowly settling into one?
The Mindset Manual with Myron Williams.
See, comfort doesn't destroy you overnight. It doesn't come loud. It doesn't come aggressive. It comes quietly. It convinces you to wait, to settle, to stop pushing just a little bit earlier than you should. And before you know it, you're stuck living a life that's far below your potential because just comfortable enough to never answer that question. So the real question is, are you building a life or slowly settling into one? Welcome to the Mindset Manual, where we don't just talk about growth, we confront the habits that quietly are holding you back. I'm Myron, entrepreneur, father, and student of life. And today we're exposing the truth about comfort and why it might be the very thing destroying your potential. This is episode 4 of my 8-part series on the harsh truths about success. I want you to follow me on this journey of my real life's experiences by hitting that like and subscribe button right now. I would truly appreciate that. Comfort convinces you there's no urgency. It tells you to start tomorrow, next week, or next year. But time keeps moving. Growth requires pressure and challenge. So as you move forward from this, I really want you to sit and think about this story that I'm about to tell you. It's a real life situation that happened to me, and I want to share it with you. So before I start the story, I want you to think about this. Where in your life have you chosen to be comfortable over growth? That's a big question. Where have you chosen to be comfortable over growth? So I'm going to tell you a little story about myself. You know, I'm a lifelong entrepreneur. I've done many businesses. I've ran many different types of businesses. I've always had that entrepreneur style since I was a kid, 16 years old. All I ever wanted to be was a businessman. That's all I talked about when I was little. I'm going to be a businessman. Both of my parents were entrepreneurs. My dad had a gas station and my mom was a hairstylist. So they instilled that entrepreneurial drive into me at a very young age. I think I was like 16. I had a lawn service and a mobile detailing service at the same time. So I would cut your grass and I would also wash your car after I finished cutting your grass. And, you know, I had a couple of friends that joined me. I was doing very well with that. So that's just an example of how long I've been doing this entrepreneurial thing. I'm 50 now, and I've started, like I said, many businesses. And if you listen to some of my stories on this podcast, you'll see some of the different things I talk about, some of the different ventures I've been into, successful ventures and some not so successful, but I kept going. I never got comfortable with a loss or a win. I always just kept moving and kept going. And that's what I want to talk about today. It's just being comfortable and not reaching your full potential. And it happens to the best of us. You know, you could be doing well on your job or in a great position on your job and decide that, well, I'm in a good position. I'm not going to try to work harder and advance. You know, why not? You have, you know, breath in your lungs and your feet work, your legs work, your mind works, you know, keep advancing. Now, if you're making 7 figures or, you know, or more a year and you're just, you know, very content being the boss of where you are, you know, that's fine. You can be comfortable in that. But if you're in a grind set mind state where you're like, I'm not making enough, you're barely going check to check, or, you know, have a few checks stacked up, but any little mistake or misstep in life could set you all the way back. You can't be in that comfort zone. You always got to be thinking ahead. Now, I'm not saying to be out of control and not having any peace and balance in your life. I'm just saying you need to be trying to move forward. You can't just sit around and say, well, I'm making X amount of dollars an hour, so that's good for my field, and I'm just going to ride with that. No, that's not the way to do it. You need to be pursuing leveling up every way. If, say, you have a business and your business is doing okay, you have maybe just say a barbershop. Let's just say something simple, or a beauty shop. You have that, and it's just you and 1 or 2 employees in that barbershop or beauty shop, right? But you guys are busy. You're always busy. Why not expand, open up more booths for your barbers or your beauticians so you can have more paying you booth rent? If that's maxed out, why not open a second location? Why stick to that first location when you can have multiple locations going at the same time and have additional revenue coming in off of less work from you? So that's getting outside of your comfort zone. Yeah, your business is doing well, but why not move to another level by opening up more, bringing in more people, and getting outside of your comfort zone and seeing the benefits that can come from that? I remember probably 18, 20 years ago, I had a tax, accounting, and bookkeeping business. That's what I went to college for, was accounting and bookkeeping. So it was kind of a passion of mine. So I started a firm. It was before the Great Recession back in the Bush era where everything went to crashing and stuff like that. But I had this firm and it was doing well. It was doing really well. And to the point that I had opened up multiple locations, like 3 locations. And I was still aggressive in my mind, like, oh, I'm really doing well. I have, around 15 employees, I think at that time, around 15 employees, and the business was doing well. And I was looking at other opportunities, right? But, because the business was doing well, but I was in a relationship and she was kind of on my back about how much time I was spending, between the locations and things like that. And I was saying, well, I'm going to be spending a little bit more time in between the locations because I plan on opening up 2 more locations next year. And I've, have found the locations. And so for me, I had the aggression and the desire and the drive to open up more locations. But the person that was my significant other, she was kind of holding me back. She was comfortable. We had a nice house. We had nice cars. We did a lot of nice things and went to events and travel. So she was comfortable where we were. Mind you, I was 30 years old at the time. I'm 50 now. I was 30 and there's no way I was going to be comfortable at 30, just, making what we were making, which was cool. We had a nice house, a nice neighborhood and stuff like that, but it was still an opportunity for me to get to another level. And she didn't want to get to that level. She wanted to stay in the level that we were. So sometimes the person that's with you can be comfortable and you're not, but that creates conflict in your household. And that's a tricky situation when you want to go forward, but the person you're with is good right here, but you want to go up, but they're good right here. It's going to create conflict, and it's a hard thing to handle. I'm not a counselor. I'm not a therapist, so I can't give you advice on how to handle that, but you have to dig deep, have conversations with them like I did with her. She was very strong about her feelings about me not growing, stuck with it for a while, for us just staying in that comfort zone with her and just trying to enjoy life with her. But when that relationship was over, the first thing I did was open up. Instead of 2 more locations, I opened up 3 or 4 more locations. And that 3 or 4 turned to 10, which turned to eventually 15 locations at one time because I didn't have that person with me anymore to keep me in that comfort zone. Now I was all about pursuing my dreams and going to the next level. And that has to be you. You have to step outside your comfort zone if you really want to get to the next level. If you see that person over there doing well and you're like, wow, they're riding this nice car, or they have this nice house, or they're doing this, or you're at the basketball game or the football game, you see them, at the lower seats or on the floor or on the field or whatever. And you're wondering like, how did they get there? Maybe those people are working really hard. They step outside of their comforts to get to that level. And that's what you have to do. Step outside your comfort zone if you want to get to that level. I've done it and I continue to do it. Even though I'm successful where I am right now, I'm doing this podcast. I'm trying to help people level up. I'm not comfortable enough to just sit here and say, well, I'm not going to do more. I've made my success. I've done businesses and been successful. I'm not going to keep it to myself, stepping outside of my comfort zone, sharing it with people like yourself so you can level up and you can get to the place like someone like me. That's me stepping out of my comfort zone. I don't have to do that. I'm very comfortable where I am, but I want to do more. I want other people to come up and learn from someone like me who's been a lifetime entrepreneur. So when you're trying to build a business, if you're thinking about building a business, I should say, there's going to be some discomfort, both thinking about it, because now you're like, I don't know if I want to leave my job and do this. Or if you've just started a business, you're going to have those days where you're like, I shouldn't have left my job. I should have just kept my job. You want to quit. I want to be honest. I've had at least 10 businesses over the last 30 years, at least 10 different businesses. And most of them were successful. I'll say maybe 2 of them didn't do well, but most of the other ones did very well. But I will say, out of all those businesses, not a single one of those businesses that I did not want to give up at some point because it was hard, or, something didn't go right, or I lost some money on this or whatnot. So I've always had a moment where like, man, I want to give up. This is not going to work. But you can't. You got to keep going. You keep going. You can't go back to, oh, I'm just going to go back to my comfort job and do that again. And I'll just keep doing that till I die. You got to step away from that. I know it feels comfortable, but it doesn't get you outside of the box. It doesn't get you that bigger house that you want. It doesn't get you that vacation across the world that you want to take. It doesn't get your kids in that private school that you want to do, or that yacht that you wanted to buy, or a boat, or whatever. It doesn't get you there because you're stuck in your comfort zone, and you have to get out of your comfort zone to get those things and achieve greatness and bigger things. Starting a business is hard. There's going to be a lot. You're going to be way out of your comfort zone. You're going to, there's no sleep pattern. There's no consistent schedule when you're running a business. There's going to be a lot of things that affect your comfort, but it's time to get uncomfortable to be successful. And that's very important in this business, or in this mindset. You have to get uncomfortable to get to the next level of being comfortable. And it takes work. It takes discipline. The motivation when you first start a business, yeah, you're super motivated. But when you start losing clients, or the marketing isn't going well, then it gets uncomfortable. But you have to keep going. The discipline to keep going will get you to a level where you will grow and be like, okay, I can take some days off. I can take that vacation now because now I'm doing well. Yeah. So I'll tell you another story about wasn't my story. It was a friend of mine, but it involved me because he ended up staying at my house during this uncomfortable period for him. He had a job offer in the city where I am. And, he was like, man, I love my city where I am. And, I got my family here, and, my kids are in schools and all of this stuff, but, I don't want to leave here, but I'm like, hey man, the money that they're offering you is significantly more than what you're making right now. This is a once in a lifetime opportunity to get a position like this to open up in your field. Let's just say I don't want to put his business out there. He was making, $120,000 a year at that time. Well, the job that they were offering was for $220,000 for the same work. I mean, he would level up a little bit and have some teammates up under him, but it was a significant amount of money, and he was like about to not accept that because it was going to be a big transition. He was going to get way out of his comfort zone. His family was going to have to stay where they were for a while so the kids could finish up, that year in school. His wife worked somewhere. She will have to find a new position. They will have to find a new house and all of that. So it's going to be an uncomfortable period. But the leveling up process of taking that chance was so great. I'm like, you cannot pass this up. So I let him come stay in my home with me and my family till he can find the right place for him and get settled and learn the city and things like that, because he needed to get out of that comfort zone. And I gave him some comfort by giving him a place to stay, a safe place to stay with somebody that he knows and trusts, and he could still, have the family around him. But that's another situation where I'm saying people let opportunities pass them by because they don't want to get outside their comfort zone. Even for more money, they don't want to get outside their comfort zone. And that's a mistake. That's a big mistake. Opportunities are out there, and it's those that go and take those chances and get outside their comfort zone. Those are the people that actually do well So, you have to think about all these things. It's your life. And when opportunities come, you have to step outside of that comfort zone so you can grow and get to the next level. So, that was just one of the stories, but it's many, many opportunities, or many, I should say, that was just one of the stories. But there's, I have a ton of different stories I could tell you about, comfort and, some of my friends not wanting to get out of their comfort zone. I've offered them opportunities to start businesses. I would help them start a business and partner with them and mentor them and help them get to the level, but they didn't want to, leave their comfort zone of their job. They didn't want to, get off the insurance from the job or get off the pension or whatever it was that doesn't come with being an entrepreneur. They didn't want to, pursue it, even though they had the skills to run their own tech business or run their own, computer business or run their own, car business or whatever. They had the skill set to do it, but they just weren't willing to go out on a limb to do it. So it's just life, man. You just have to just step outside of your comfort zone, because that's what's holding you back. You sit back and think about, all the chances that you had that you didn't pursue. What was it? What was the true reason that you didn't pursue it? What was it? Was it comfort? What was it? Most of the time it is you don't want to step out of your comfort zone. So as you move forward from this, I really do want you to think about this question. Where in your life have you chosen comfort over growth? Because comfort will protect you today. It will keep things easy, predictable, safe, but over time, it starts to cost you. It costs you discipline. It costs you momentum. And eventually, it costs you the life you are capable of living. So don't just chase what feels good. Start chasing what makes you better. Because at the end of the day, comfort protects today, but it can quietly steal tomorrow. If this message hit you hard, make sure you like, subscribe, and share this with someone who needs it. And as always, I thank you for tuning in to the Mindset Manual with me, Myron Williams. Stay balanced, stay focused, and keep practicing that emotional intelligence.
The Mindset Manual with Myron Williams.
Sometimes the biggest limitation in your life is the environment you're standing in. But she's my bestie. She has my back. On one hand, she does, but when it comes to leveling up or growing, she wants you to stay right there, neck and neck with her. Don't believe me? Just look at your circle and see who stands above the rest. If you're here, then it's probably not you.
The Mindset Manual with Myron Williams.
Welcome to the Mindset Manual, the place where we talk about the hard truths that most people avoid, but the truths that can actually change your life. I'm Myron, entrepreneur, father, and student of life. And today we're talking about one of the harsh truths about success. This is episode 3 of my 8-part series on the harsh truths about success. Thank you for joining me as I give my real life testimony on entrepreneurships and strengthening your emotional intelligence to handle any situation. We grew up with friends and made great memories, but growth changes priorities. Not everyone grows in the same direction. Some circles revolve around complaining, blaming, and avoiding responsibility. Your environment shapes your thinking, and your thinking shapes your life. I want to talk about a thing that happens to most of us in life. We never want to outshine our circle. We always want to stay close to our friends, and everybody comes up at the same time. Everybody, is living kind of around the same level. In reality, that's not how it's supposed to be. Some people are just going to be more successful than others. It's the ones that decide to step away from the pack that actually makes it to the next level. The ones that stay in the horde and stay in the circle, everybody stays the same. Nobody goes and levels up. It's that one that stays in the lab, or if they're an athlete, stays in the gym or stay working on their craft, that outshines the next person. That should be you. Don't let your circle hold you back. I want to share my journey with you. I'm going to tell you a couple stories about things that I've experienced with my friends, family, significant others, and my circle that held me back. Well, I learned later in life that it was holding me back. At the time, it didn't seem like it. I had a tax office. No, actually, I had 3 tax offices at the time. And I was dating someone. I started dating someone. I already had the offices before we met, and I was already doing really well. And we had been dating for a little while, and it was coming up on, say, 7, 8 months we've been dating. And I was telling her, I'm thinking about opening up some more offices. My other 3 offices are doing really well. I saw some locations that I like, and I think that I'm gonna open up some more locations. So her response was not what I was expecting. She was like, "You're gonna open up more locations. You're gonna stress yourself out. You're gonna be away from the house more. That's you. I mean, you're doing really well right now. Why do you need more locations?" So I'm thinking like, well, we're in a relationship. I'm trying to level up so we can buy nicer things and have more fun and travel. But her thing was, no, she just wanted me to continue where I was, stay on the road that I was on, and just have our relationship. But I'm thinking I was like maybe like 30 years old at the time, full of energy, full of life, full of ambition. Why would not go for it? This is the perfect time to go for it. No kids or nothing like that. It's time for me to go for it. But she didn't see it that way. She felt like I was doing too much. At the time, I felt some kind of way, but I was in a relationship. I was doing well. So I was kind of comfortable, but I really wanted to open up those locations. I had scouted a place and everything, but I ended up just passing on that. I didn't do it. But later, when the season started, that tax season started, I rolled by those locations that I had scouted, and turned out somebody had put what? Tax offices in there. That really got me to thinking, man, I had a great idea. I had a plan, but I let my girlfriend at the time talk me out of doing it. You know how that sting. You know how that sting a little bit. You know that. But what I'm saying is that happens to a lot of us. Our significant other holds us back from an idea that we have. Oh, you don't need to do that. You're going to lose your insurance. You need to stay on your job. You don't need to do that. You can't invest our money into that. It's always something that you have to hear to keep you from going forward. Now, I'm not telling you, I don't want you to say, I'm not a relationship counselor, so I don't want you to get a divorce or break up with your girlfriend or boyfriend because of what I'm saying. I'm just sharing my story of what happened to me, and it ended up turning out great for me. I ended that relationship. I moved on, opened up 10 tax offices, did great, ended up selling those offices off, making a ton of money doing it. So that's my story. So my point of this story is just to tell you that even your relationships can hold you back if you and the person aren't on the same page. Now, let me tell you about some other stuff. How your circle can hold you back, like your friends. You know how you don't want to outshine your circle. You don't want to be above them. You kind of, want to stay the same, but you think that you're doing them a favor by staying where you are. And in reality, they're keeping you right where they want you to be. Have you ever noticed every time you give them an idea or share an idea with them, they give you the negative side of what can happen if it doesn't work? You're going to lose your money. You're going to waste a lot of time. This is going to work, you're going to fail. Instead of saying, yeah, do it, go for it. Most circles don't do that. Most friend groups don't do that. That's just not how they are. But a real friend will get behind you. A real friend will invest in that business. A real friend will come work in that business with you, market that business for you. That's what a real friend would do. But how many friends in your group do you have that do that? They watch from the outside, but they're not going to be in there in the trenches with you. They're not going to help you out. They're just waiting on you to fail because they want you to stay right there where you are. But you have to define yourself from that group. Step aside, step above, rise above the group. They stay down here, you rise up here. If they want to meet you here, you can't come down there. They got to come on up to your level. You're not coming down to them because you lose at that point. You're going in reverse when you're going down. So they got to come up to your level. I know it's hard to do. I know it's hard to change your circles and change your friends and stuff like that. It hurts, but you have to do it. It's the reality. I can go back to when I was 21 years old. Some of my friends from high school, we came up together, and we moved to the same city after high school. We came to the same city, went to college. We remained friends. I remember we'd go out, we partied, we had a great time. All of us young men, we had ambition, but we didn't have a career or know what we were doing yet. We were just living our life. But as time goes on, we turned 30, I had started separating myself from the pack. I was leveling up. I had bought a nice house. I had a couple nice cars. Some of my friends were, just still in college or still going back to college, trying to figure out what they want to do. They weren't there yet. So the things that I was talking about and wanted to do, they weren't able to do. They couldn't travel with me. They couldn't see the things that I saw in life or purchase the things that I was buying in life because they weren't on my level. And that, them not being on my level, eventually from year after year, I remained friends with them. Things were good sometimes and things you could tell they weren't really good. They weren't really happy for me. But when you're successful, you overlook a lot of the stuff that's kind of below you. You don't really, see it that way because when you're moving fast and doing good, that's all you see is good. You don't really think about the bad that, the hate or the disrespect or people are disguising in their joke. It's like a joke, but it's actually very disrespectful to you. You kind of overlook that stuff because you're beyond that. You're above that. But in reality, as time goes on, you're 30, you turn 40. I'm 50 now. Those things, they don't sit well with me. Those circles, I'm not in those circles anymore because eventually you learn that circle was really just holding you back. They still are where they were when they were 25. You're on a whole nother level. And if you want to get to a whole nother level, if you're 25 right now or 30 right now, or even 40 right now, even 50 right now, if you look at that circle that you've been with for a long time and everybody's on the same level, maybe it's time to make some new connections. Maybe it's time to start having some better conversations or some new conversations with some people that are on your level and trying to see the world and do bigger things and do big entrepreneurial things. You got to step away from that. I'm not telling you today, hey, cut off your friends, cut off your circle. I'm not telling you that at all. I'm just telling you to do an inventory of your circle and your friends and the people around you and see, are they helping you? Are they giving you the same energy that you're giving them? Do you give them more love than they give you? Do you support their ideas or their stuff that they're doing, sharing their stuff on social media or talking it up? They do the same for you. Just do an inventory on it and think about it and move from that point. I promise you, you'll see some things that you probably felt, but you never did anything about. You'll see it a lot more clear now. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. Sometimes, growth just requires new conversations. If you stay in the same circle, stay having the same conversations with the same old people, you're going to get the same old result. You want to level up, you got to venture out. You got to meet some new people, get some new connections, have some new conversations about new things, open your mind up, open your thinking up to other opportunities and other ways that people think. That's what you got to do. If you really want to get to the next level in this thing, like I said, if you're 30, you're 40, you're figuring it out, hey, it's time to change your way of thinking to get to the next level. Thank you for watching and sharing this journey with me on the Mindset Manual. If you haven't already hit that like and subscribe button, I appreciate you clapping for me by doing so right now. If you know somebody that needs to hear my testimony, send them a link to the channel so they can join the family. Be sure to join me next week for part 4 of this 8-part series. Next week, we're talking about, is your comfort destroying your potential? It's going to be a great episode. But until then, I want you to stay focused, stay balanced, and keep practicing that emotional intelligence.
The Mindset Manual with Myron Williams.